Good afternoon, and welcome to COVID Conversation. My name is Tim Caddigan, the chair of the board for the Oakville Chamber of Commerce, and your host for this webinar. On today's episode, we are pleased to have the founder and CEO of BarterPay, John Potter, with us. BarterPay is an international company which helps businesses become more profitable by leveraging their downtime and idle inventory into other products and services that they require. Today, BarterPay has more than 4,000 clients in 5 provinces, and they're growing strong. The goal is to have 35 offices and 20,000 clients across Canada within the next 5 years and become Canada's only national bartering company. BarterPay is also a proud partner of the Chamber Network here in Ontario. And so welcome, John, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Tim.
I've been looking forward to today's webinar. So I'm familiar with bartering, but not on the scale that you're involved in. So 40,000 clients in 5 provinces, and you have ambitious growth projections. I'm curious, tell us how this all started.
Yeah, so basically in 1996, I was 20 years old and heading to Waterloo for civil engineering, and decided that I didn't want to be an engineer. And so I kind of got into sales and marketing, took a left-hand turn, and stumbled across a bartering business again, this was in 1996 in Toronto. They hosted a convention where some US-based barter companies came into the country and wanted to open up. And so I kind of attached myself to one of the brands based out of Atlanta, Georgia. And of course, just started to sell the concept. And it was really, I was way too early to the market, really, 24 years ago. The technology wasn't there. The mindset of the business owner wasn't ready to hear about how alternate forms of payment could work. And so, yeah, it was really difficult to get started. But basically, that's what happened. I just started knocking on doors, started talking to businesses about the idea, and got one to join. And that's kind of carried out from there.
So you and I had a quick chat yesterday as we were preparing for this conversation today. Mm-hmm. And what struck me, and I think it will probably appeal to quite a few people who are watching with us that have an entrepreneurial spirit, is just the guts it took to do what you're doing. Can you talk a little bit about that? You took a lot of risk.
Well, tons of risk. I mean, every business owner that's on this call or watching right now is taking a risk when they launch a business. And actually, when I look at the definition of an entrepreneur, people like the first half of the definition, but they fail to sometimes see the second half of the definition. And an entrepreneur is somebody who owns or manages a business or businesses. And then the second half is and takes on undue financial risk in order to do so. And so it's literally been like that. We bootstrapped this right from the beginning. No bank has really understood what we're up to. No investors really understood or believed in what we were building. And so my wife and I, back in 2012, we sold our property. We sold some things that we had, and we had to raise a very significant amount of money personally just to kind of throw into the business to build software. And so it's those risks that you take that actually are going to pay off. And so we just knew that we were either going to win or learn. So there's no real downside in that respect.
So I want to dig in a bit on how bartering works, especially during COVID, but can you just give us an overview of just the idea, the concept of bartering within how your company manages it?
For sure. So, BarterPay, what we are is we're a business that helps all Canadian businesses, get the things that they need without having to use money. Instead, they can just offer up their own goods or services. And we all know that, bartering is actually the oldest form of commerce. It's how business was invented a long time ago. But for two parties to enter into a fair transaction, a fair barter transaction, each side has to want what the other person has. And here's the catch: at the same time and at the same value. It's actually called the double coincidence of wants. And so, that often doesn't line up. It's very difficult to line up. So what we've created is a platform that allows a business to open an account with BarterPay, establish an account number. They can now offer up their goods or services onto the platform in exchange for a barter credit. Now, one barter credit equals $1 Canadian for valuation, accounting, and tax purposes. So they can now offer up their goods or services onto the platform. They can bank this barter credit, and regardless of who has acquired their goods or services, they can take this newly earned barter credit that does not expire, and they can go and use it to barter and trade with anybody else in the entire system. So no longer is a business restricted to a one-on-one bartering arrangement. It's now a one-to-many bartering ecosystem where everybody's working together and sharing their resources amongst each other.
Mm-hmm. It sounds fascinating. Mm-hmm. This webinar series, COVID Conversations, was started as the Chamber's normal operations were interrupted. Talk a little bit about how businesses are leveraging BarterPay as they make their way through COVID.
For sure. So we've got some businesses in real time. We got, like you mentioned, we got about 4,000 SMEs on the platform already and growing quickly. And so we've got a number of businesses who are obviously shut down right now, but they know they're going to reopen, and we're obviously seeing signs of that in the not too distant future. So at the end of the day, the way a business is leveraging BarterPay today is they are taking their unsold time or space, if they're in a service-based business, or they're taking their idle, unsold, paid-up inventory, and they're putting it out onto the barter platform in exchange for barter credits. And they're taking those barter credits and using them in real time for things like, personal, professional development. Obviously, everybody's become digital in the last few weeks here. So, online courses, whether it's personal, professional, advertising. We all know that if you advertise in a downturn, you're getting, even more impressions, and it's a lot less expensive. A marketing refresh. I mean, what business wants to go out and spend money on building a new website if they could trade for it? So we've got like a business, for example, in the Halton region who owns a restaurant. He's about to paint his restaurant while he's closed, but rather than dipping into 5,000 or 10,000 of his precious cash to hire the painter, he's simply leveraging BarterPay, offering up 5,000 or 10,000 worth of gift cards to his restaurant, banking those credits, and then utilizing the credits with a painter within the system to offset that cost. So he's actually conserving cash today, and he's paying off that painting contract over time at his food cost. All the while, based on the gift cards being redeemed, it's driving brand new unsolicited business right back to his location.
Sounds like a great deal for everybody, really.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Talk to me a little bit about the tax implications. When we first started talking about this topic, that was the thing that struck me: is how does the tax implication work? How are people responsible for the taxes? All of that. I'm sure GST is involved.
Yes, absolutely. So, there's no advantage or disadvantage when it comes to the taxes and bartering. We're actually a designated barter company by the CRA. They like what we do because we take some of that underground economy that actually happens and will always happen, but we take some of that and formalize it and put it on paper. So again, there's no advantage in the from a tax perspective in terms of bartering. So the advantage is that you're able to buy at your wholesale cost of goods or time and space. But so what we do for the taxes, we highly suggest that we can't control how a business runs their accounting, but we highly suggest that you simply set up your BarterPay account in your books and records as another bank account. So, just treat it like a normal bank account. When you earn barter credits, it's revenue to your business. You still provide an invoice, including HST. And as you spend BarterPay credits, you still get an invoice, including HST. So the HST is just simply a flow through like normal. It washes out, but it's best to record it just because there's a full paper trail on every transaction. And much like a financial institution sends a monthly statement to itemize your checking account or your cash bank account, we send a monthly BarterPay statement, which itemizes all your bartering transactions as well. Sales, purchases, year to date, month to date, balance in your account, and all sorts of things.
So you mentioned wholesale pricing, and BarterPay is not a discount system. Are they just expected to charge their normal pricing? How does that work?
Yeah, so great question. So the pricing platform that we promote is sort of a retail to retail to retail to retail. We don't not allow discounts. We don't say you can't offer a discount, but we definitely do not allow inflation over and above the fair market retail price. And so just to kind of illustrate that, when you get a coupon book in the mail and it says this offer cannot be combined with any other offer or discount, we liken it to that. The fact that a business owner can turn around and buy something, acquire something that they normally would have paid cash for, and they can now pay for it in barter credits at their wholesale cost of goods or time and space that would have been expiring to zero. That transaction in and of itself is already a really big discount, usually more than any other discount they could negotiate in the cash world. So to expect that a business can buy something at a discount and pay in BarterPay is kind of like combining two discounts together, which obviously is cost prohibitive for the seller.
So, I think I told you when we first started talking that wrapping my head around this concept was a bit of a challenge. And I'm sure for many businesses, they think, okay, the idea of not using cash is attractive, but what do I have to barter? Are there businesses out there that simply this doesn't work for, or are you there to help them and try to help be creative perhaps in what they might be able to put in?
Absolutely. So it's like, we've got some businesses that it doesn't work for, but they own a vacation property. And all of a sudden they've got a vacation property that's sitting idle, so they can barter that. But it's a very short list of businesses that it sort of doesn't work for. We're probably not going to have things like fuel on board BarterPay. Your mortgage payments. You can't pay your taxes in barter. Things like core groceries. Anything with sort of a razor thin margin, like ordering 2x4 lumber from the lumber store in BarterPay probably isn't going to happen, or paper. Office supplies, like with slight margins. So it's more for the all the other businesses, which is a big long list. So anything from health and wellness to media and entertainment to advertising to business services to sporting events, restaurants and entertainment, all sorts of different services. Professionals, whether you're an architect, an engineer, a lawyer, a dentist. We've got them all on board the system already, and they're all leveraging it to fill in that downtime and or move idle goods and convert it back into full value.
So you touched on barter credits. So is the marketplace strictly barter? I'm going to try to use that again. Yeah. Strictly barter credits, or is there also an element of cash that could be incorporated?
So it's strictly barter credits up to a certain level of transaction. We know that the bigger the transaction, the more cost prohibitive it is to the seller to offer the entire portion in barter credits. So anything that's over $5,000 in a transaction, we allow for the buyer and the seller to work out a barter Canadian dollar barter blend. So typically that ends up being somewhere around 50% in barter and 50% in money. Obviously, the seller wants the most amount of Canadian dollars possible, and the buyer wants the most amount of barter possible. So they work it out. We're happy to coach them along in that, and as long as they're coming together and walking away happy, then we're happy.
And the tracking of barter credits, you likened it to a bank account. How are they tracked, and do they expire? How do they work?
Yeah, so we have a full proprietary software. That's what we sold our property for. And so we built this software from scratch. So it literally operates almost like a financial tool. So a barter credit, again, is equal to $1 Canadian for valuation, accounting, and tax purposes. And so much like you log into your online banking to see all of your Canadian dollar, in and out, you can log into your BarterPay account through mybarterpay.ca. Log in there, you can see your statement, past statements, ranges. You can transfer credits. You can earn credits. We also have an app called BarterPay POS that you can download to your phone through the App Store and or Google Play Store. And that allows you to, again, see all your transactions in real time, to transfer barter credits as a buyer over to a seller, or as a seller to, transact them back into your basically your BarterPay wallet. We also have, in that app, you can upload your BarterPay debit card as well to the screen and have it available to make transactions.
You touched on the coaching role that you and the team play. What role does your team play in helping to broker those deals?
Yeah, so we have an amazing team, almost 55 people now across the country, comprising, franchise owners, their staff, our tech team, our executive team, finance team, and that sort of thing, our admin team. But our biggest team within the whole major overall team is the barter coach team. And so even though we're a technology-driven company, we're going to always pride ourselves in having a very strong human element. And that is that every business that joins the platform, they can download the app, they can look at the directory, they can upload, ads, they can, participate in all the tech side of it. But once we connect them to a barter coach, that coach is there to help be an extension of their team in terms of their bartering activity. So that coach will help you market your business out to the system to help you earn credits. But more importantly, that coach will help work with you on your wish list of all the things that you're looking for. They can actually put them into our deal tracker system, our request-based system, and then we can actually start connecting the dots. So the barter coach there is to help you navigate the system, because your job as a business owner is to build your business and build your cash business, which, we all know that cash is still king. You can't run your business on barter. Cash is the oxygen of your business. But barter is meant to be a filler. So when you have downtime or you have idle inventory, which every business right now does, you can actually leverage the BarterPay ecosystem to monetize that, what we call business waste. Mm-hmm.
If you've just tuned in, you're watching COVID Conversations, a presentation of the Oakville Chamber of Commerce. And our guest today is John Potter. He's the founder and CEO of BarterPay. John, I want to talk about, so they have a coach. Each business has a coach. What happens if a deal doesn't go well, if it goes bad on them?
Yeah, so if a deal doesn't go well, it's basically business as usual. I mean, we're building a marketplace. Obviously, we vet every business that comes into the system. We don't have a way that a business can just sign up online on their own accord. We want to make sure they either attend one of our webinars or that we talk to them face to face and or over a Zoom call, do a bit of an interview, make sure they understand, make sure there's the right fit for what we're looking to accomplish here. But at the end of the day, if a deal goes awry, it's basically up to the buyer and the seller to work that out, no differently than it would be in the normal cash world, we call it. So once in a while, obviously the barter coach, and we're representing both sides, so it's hard for us to kind of get in the middle of it, but we try and smooth things over. It's rare that these things come up, but it does come up. And if it continues to come up with a certain client or vendor particularly, multiple times, then we'll ask them, politely ask them to exit the network, and we'll help them spend their barter credits to zero. We'll stop promoting them, and we'll just exit them from the system.
And what about quality control if a job isn't done well?
Yeah, so same thing, quality control. It's really up to the buyer to determine if they want to make a purchase. All we are is connecting them with potential sellers or vendors or contractors, say. It's really up to them to do normal due diligence on whether or not they want to pull the trigger on a transaction, no differently than they would in the cash world, where they get 2 or 3 quotes, pick their vendor. It's not always the cheapest quote that's going to be the best vendor. So it's always about balancing, the price along with value. And so in the bartering system, it's not always the cheapest price, but it's always the cheapest cost usually. So if I'm a restaurant owner and I'm looking to have my restaurant painted, and my cheapest Canadian dollar quote is $5,000, and the BarterPay vendor happens to be $6,000, not because they're overpricing, just because they happen to be more expensive than this quote A, say, it's still more cost effective for me to issue $6,000 in my own gift cards out to the network than it is for me to take $5,000 from my precious cash and go in and use my cash. So it's all about just doing your math, making sure that you're making the appropriate decision. But yeah, we're not, BarterPay doesn't warranty or guarantee the delivery of goods or services. We're simply a connector of people that where the transaction, when it comes time to put it through, is in the form of barter credits instead of money.
So taking your example of the painter, for instance, are BarterPay deals structured in a similar way that they would be in the traditional market? And by that, I mean, so I hire a painter, we agree that I will pay 50% at the start of the job and then 50% at the completion. Is that sort of thing possible as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we actually have an escrow function in our system too, so that the contractor can know that the barter credits are held in escrow, and so that when they complete the job, they know that they're available to be paid. That way, the purchaser isn't spending out their barter pay credits on something else while they're getting their restaurant painted, right? So, it's as a vendor in the system, as a seller, whatever way you normally run your regular business, you just simply run your barter pay transactions the exact same way. If that means getting a deposit, you get a barter pay deposit. If that means, getting payment in full before you start, then that's the way you do it. That's cool too. We'll work with you in any way that you set up your business. We don't want to interfere with that flow, that deal flow.
So I can't remember the exact terminology you used when we spoke yesterday, but I think it was around the idea or the notion of BarterPay being a community, and that the people that are involved are part of that community. I'm just curious about how difficult that will be to manage as you grow this business, because 4,000 seems like a lot, 20,000 seems like a lot more.
Yeah, and 20,000, that stat is from a couple of years ago. We're actually aiming for 100,000 at this point in Canada, but as we manage it, it's going to be technology that helps with that, and AI likely will enter the picture as well. And so we want to, right now we have every 200 businesses has a coach. We can see over the course of time, introducing AI just by sheer scaling up the company, having more and more people in the system makes it better for everybody, because there's more nodes, there's more buying and selling opportunities. And so we expect that ratio is going to go, to one coach to 500 businesses in the future. But we're also setting up, private Zoom meetings, sort of networking meetings and groups, private Facebook groups that are all based on cities across the country. And so essentially it's going to become an ecosystem where the members themselves are pretty much governing themselves in this ecosystem. And because we're capping the ecosystem right now in Canada to 100,000 participants, essentially that's going to help keep everybody honest, help everybody, because if there's a waiting list, for people to get into the program, obviously it's going to keep everybody, treating each other with fairness and respect, and making sure that it's equitable for all the people involved.
So the deals that happen within BarterPay, they tend to be more localized. As you scale up to 100,000 across the country, can I, here in Oakville, find a way to do business with somebody that's in Vancouver. Obviously, that would be not localized as far as painters and plumbers and that sort of thing. But what is it today? What will it be then?
Yeah, so today, 90% of the transactions that we do within BarterPay happen in the local, region, say like the Halton region or the Hamilton region or Niagara or wherever we are across the country. But that's no different than the regular, cash world. But to answer your question, barter credits are not restricted to borders, not only in Canada, but as we launch in the US and 25 other countries, it'll be like real-time barter transactions happening with back-end foreign exchange and, mathematics happening in the back end. So, like it's going to be like wide and broad, so this by joining BarterPay, the community, you're actually able to expose your business right away to thousands of other businesses across different marketplaces. So it can actually allow you and help you to expand your reach. Businesses can earn barter credits locally, spend them elsewhere. They can earn them elsewhere, spend them locally. It's just one big ecosystem. We just had our first business join in Newfoundland, St. John's, Newfoundland, a couple of weeks ago. It's a PR firm. And I believe they already have a transaction set up with an Ontario-based business where they're going to provide some PR services. We got a person in a web development company in Peterborough, Lindsay area that just joined yesterday. Now they're going to be doing a website for somebody in Regina, Saskatchewan. So it's literally no borders. You can spend and earn anywhere in the country. Yeah.
Another interesting concept that I came across was barter pay it forward. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I love talking about BarterPay It Forward because it's our charitable movement. It actually is what makes BarterPay a social impact enterprise at this point. We're super, super excited about rolling this out in a big way. So we had lots of charities that were approaching us across our different networks in Canada and saying, how do we get in on this BarterPay ecosystem? We have admin and overhead costs that we have to pay for out of our pocket. And we'd love to take all of our precious donor dollars and just put them towards the end cause and not have to, deal with all these other admin and overhead costs. So what we did was we actually, to streamline it, we created what's called the BarterPay It Forward Foundation. So we actually have a Canadian registered charity as well. And so what we've got is we've got these thousands of businesses in this ecosystem who are now, having a great time earning the credits, spending the credits, getting the things that they need, boosting their bottom line, increasing cash flow. But now we're teaching these businesses that in order to be competitive in tomorrow's marketplace, you have to be a business that has ethical supply chains, is environmentally friendly, and is most importantly connected to your local community. And so if you're not doing those things, then you're going to be left behind. So, but how does a business right now, especially in today's environment, come up with cash to give to charity? It's very difficult to do. So now businesses can take barter credits that they've earned, where they've monetized expiring time and space or inventory into barter credits. They can now take those barter credits and donate them to the BarterPay It Forward Foundation in exchange for a one-for-one charitable tax receipt. They can then, we then take those barter pay credits that are in the foundation and we dole them out as gifts to charities across the country. And the best part is the charities take the barter credits and spend them right back into the same ecosystem from where they were generated in order to offset their admin and overhead costs. So it's like a tremendous new way for businesses to give back to their community without having to cut a check, but also for charities to receive funding. It's kind of a new invention. So, and already in our pilot, 3.4 million barter pay credits have gone through our foundation and back out to charity. So it's unlocking this whole new layer of giving where it's turning what we call business waste into giving instead of it going to waste. Mm-hmm.
So for those of us who are watching, or the business leaders that are watching, how do they get involved with BarterPay? How do they sign up?
So the way that would work is we encourage you to go to barterpay.ca, click the button to learn more. It'll take you to a landing page where you can choose the type of business that you're in, a service-based, product-based, restaurant. We're launching other verticals as well. But we want you to join a 30-minute webinar where we can just show you in more detail the whole ecosystem, just basically all the tools at your disposal. We also want to make sure that you understand how it works, because we want to make sure that there's the fit. If you're interested in joining after that, we send you a special link that you can then fill out your application. Once we receive your application, we review it. We look at your website, your Google reviews, maybe check out your business a bit. And as long as we feel there's a fit and we can bring you immediate business, then we're going to onboard you and connect you with your coach and get you all set up and start marketing your business right away to the network. Very rarely do we turn a business down, but it does happen from time to time. But essentially, that's the way it works. If somebody wants to skip the webinar because maybe they are hearing this information now, then we can just get in touch with me via email, john.porter@barterpay.ca, and then we can just send you the link through our system.
We only have a couple minutes left, and I want to get to this. I wonder if you can share with us a memorable barter deal that you've helped to facilitate.
So a memorable barter deal, I'm going to go to this most recent barter pay it forward transaction that we put together. So last September, we stumbled across a greenhouse who was sitting on about $500,000 worth of plants that were going to be thrown in the garbage. They just had too many plants for whatever reason that year. And they're a very, very large greenhouse, so it was a small amount of plants for them. But anyways, $500,000 worth of plants going in the compost pile isn't a good thing. So we intercepted that deal. It was early October last year, and we had about 3 or 4 days to market those plants out to our network. We ended up monetizing almost $50,000 worth of plants at the very last minute into barter credits that went into the greenhouse's account. The greenhouse turned around and donated those barter credits to our foundation, 100% of them, for the tax receipt. And then we were able to distribute those to charities who turned around and went back in and got things like printing and T-shirts and leasehold improvements to their building maintenance, all sorts of different things that they normally would have to spend cash on. So we've got thousands of examples, but I love talking about how businesses are converting their idle time and inventory into giving. It's a really fantastic thing that's happening out there.
We just have literally a minute left. If you can give us any advice, what you would say to business leaders that are thinking about joining, what can they do to be successful once they do join?
Yeah, but my biggest advice is you got to give it a try, see how it works for you. You're not locked into a long-term contract. It's not going to put you out of business to dip your toe in the water and see how it works. So we always suggest opening an account, working with a coach. Let us get you through the first 2 or 3 months, through the cycles of buying and selling. And if after a couple of months you don't think it's bringing you enough value, you can just simply close your account. No hard feelings. We'll help you exit the system. From there, it's a seamless way to test it out. No different than trying out new forms of advertising. So that's my biggest advice. Try it out. I mean, this is the time. If you're going to learn something and want to adopt, as we enter and usher in this new economy, businesses have to be diligent about learning new things. And bartering is going to be almost an essential service as we enter this new economy. So it's incumbent upon all of business owners to adopt new ways of doing business, and this is one of them that can help them improve cash.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
That's all the time we have today. Thanks to John Potter from BarterPay for joining us on COVID Conversations. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule for what we believe was a very interesting conversation. Our next COVID Conversation will take place 1 week from today, Wednesday, May 13th at noon. On behalf of the Oakville Chamber of Commerce and to everyone watching on Facebook Live, Zoom, and on your TV, thank you for tuning in. Have a productive and safe day.